What's up guys, and welcome to today's video where I talk about my biggest e-commerce mistake so that you can avoid the same thing so that your business will do better. So first things first, if you wonder why I'm sitting exactly the same spot with exactly the same outfit, it's because I'm going on vacation on Friday and I will be on a road trip. I don't know how the internet will be, so I'm pre-recording a little bit of stuff for you so that I don't mess up my schedule. This being said, I want to first of all give you some information and some background story to the mistakes that I'm talking about. So the mistake or the mistakes occurred at the time where I was still working with with a partner of mine at this point in time. So in like 2016 to 2017, we worked together and we had a really solid six-figure store that was doing super well. We're not partners anymore. We may be again in the future, but you know, everyone had his own projects then at some point and we just separated. And yeah, we ran this very successful six-figure store, and of course at the same time we were always looking for new things, right? So at this point I actually wasn't looking for hundreds of products to test. So things were a little bit different. Right now everyone is testing like 10, 20, 50, 100 products at a time. At this point we were looking for these big things, right? So we were looking for big trends, big niches that emerged that we then could write on, that we would, you know, quickly test, but then also buy products in bulk immediately. At this point we weren't really about dropshipping from China directly to the consumer. We would do that occasionally, but this was not our goal, and this was where then our mistake occurred. So we were, as I said, we were looking for these big trends, these big niches, and our mistake was that we identified a lot of them super early, but we were actually not able to, you know, participate in them quickly enough. So I will give you a few examples here. We were, for example, in this drone trend when the whole thing about the camera drones came up. At this point in time where we spotted this whole thing, where we saw it grow, there were just a few drones on Amazon at this time, at least for consumers. We spotted this whole thing. We bought a drone for ourselves as a sample. We basically tested the drone. It was a lot of fun, but we somehow didn't put this whole store together. So our other store was doing super well, which kind of made us a little bit lazy to test and do new things in a way. But we had this drone, we knew that there was a market, but because there were some difficulties, we didn't pursue it anymore. So, for example, shipping costs were sometimes a little bit high with these drones, and even though we had the same issue with our normal product, we thought, you know, at this time with this new store, we wanted to be a little bit easier. So we didn't do it because of this issue. Also, there were some problems with certain suppliers, and these were all not super big issues, right? You could have overcome them, especially because our main six-figure store, we had a lot of issues as well, but we mastered all of them. So for our new store, we didn't want these issues. This was already a super big mistake. Another example is, for example, you know these lazy bags probably, these things that you basically push through the air and then you can, you know, you put the air in there, you close them, and then you can lie down on them. You can lay down on them, you ride for the beach, for the lake or whatever. And this was another example of a product that we spotted, where we spotted the trend super early, when there were, again, just a handful of products on Amazon and eBay, no big brands, no big things at all. And we thought, well, this is a good product to go into, right? And then we researched the product a little bit more, we looked at certain suppliers, we messaged them, and as I said, we were not in this full-scale dropshipping business at this time. Our goal was always to fulfill by ourselves and then move forward. So we were not looking at suppliers on like AliExpress, we were always using Alibaba. And this is also one of the reasons why we didn't test quickly, because whenever we wanted to dive into a new niche, we were always looking for suppliers that can give us at least like 10, 20 or 50 products from scratch already. At this particular product, you know, we literally waited like 6 months or something like that, and then we finally decided that we want to actually try the product out, because we were still relatively early. So now you can imagine how early we really identified this trend. And then we decided, okay, let's make an order. I think we bought like 200 of those bags. And of course it cost us like $3,000 or $4,000, and then they had to be shipped because you know, there was a whole process. We had our logo on them, so it took quite a while. When they were here, we were actually selling them mostly on Amazon, so we delivered them to the Amazon warehouse. But then, of course, you know, it was like, I don't know, 8 months after we spotted this trend initially. And then, here's another great story. We actually got some sales and we got some traction, but then we were approached by a patent holder who then told us, you know, you're violating our utility patent. It was a major brand in this space, and we were actually, you know, the rest of our stock became useless because we were not allowed to sell them anymore. So it's a pretty bad thing that happened there. First of all, we were super late. Then basically after we got some traction and got a handful of sales, you know, we were kind of, basically they came to us and said, you know, you have to stop selling this product now, and everything was done. So this was another example. But also things like VR, you know, VR glasses. You remember these glasses that you can put on and you have these VR thing. This hasn't been around for more than just, you know, 2-3 years or something like that, at least not at scale. And here, same thing, few products on Amazon, very low competition. We thought about going in there, we checked some suppliers, but we didn't make it into a full store, full brand and everything in the end. And I think, you know, the mistake itself here is, of course, timing, right? So we spotted trends, but with the timing was great, but then the execution behind it wasn't there. So I think, to this day, the reason was that we were doing good numbers with our store. Both of us became a little, you know, satisfied with the situation. We were doing well. At this point, we already had like 2 clients or something aside, you know, while running the store itself. And we were also at the same time focused on growing this store that we were running. And this is why we always kept looking for other things, but we never really and fully executed with them. And this is the big takeaway here, guys. Whether you are just starting and you sometimes feel overwhelmed, or you know, you want to test something but then you don't do it in the end, or you have a successful business already and you think, you know, because I have this successful business, I don't need to try new things, I don't need to keep up with new things. And now this particular store at some point came to an end because it was some sort of hype, some sort of trend store as well. It did very well, but at some point, you know, it just didn't work out anymore that well. And this is the thing here, guys. When you have a business that is doing well right now, doesn't mean that you should focus on that forever, that you should rely on that. You should still keep an eye on new things and see what happens, emerging trends, new stuff. And this is some huge takeaway here that is super important. So as I said, if you're satisfied right now, still be open-minded to new ideas, as we were, but in our case we just lacked the execution with these particular products. And I see this all the time when, you know, new beginners are telling me, hey, I found a great niche, I found great products, they seem so promising, should I test them, right? Should I go with them? And from my experience now, I say, well, if you think this is a great opportunity, if you research the product, if you think it can do well, of course you never know 100% up front, but if you think there is potential, then just go for it. Instead of thinking about it, instead of overthinking, instead of just, you know, messing around and then in the end waiting until it becomes a hot product. Imagine you would have discovered like fidget spinners before everyone was selling them. So there was this situation where I didn't know exactly how it happened there. I think there was this one brand that marketed them in a way that they become so popular again because they have been around for quite some time. But what if you would have spotted them early on, so that when this trend was on the rise, you would have established yourself before all these thousands of advertisers would come in as well. And this is the thing here, guys. If you think you're onto something, if you see some potential, whether it's a little bit or of course a lot of potential, just go for it, just test it, especially now where everyone is testing with dropshipping only. As I said in the beginning, we were doing a lot of stuff without dropshipping. I mean, we were dropshipping from China because we were selling high ticket products, we were using like express delivery, but still we were not comfortable with doing this all the time. So nowadays, where everyone is using Alibaba, AliExpress, and etc. as well, this is way easier. So you can literally test something where you see potential in super quickly. You can iterate super quickly. You can just go ahead. You can move on. You can test something, go ahead. And yeah, it became much easier. At the same time though, you should be aware of the fact that real testing is not done in like a general store where you throw in a product and if it doesn't sell then it's not good. Because if you want to test a product's full potential, you actually have to do the whole environment, or you have to adapt the whole environment accordingly. So you cannot test a product, throw it in a general store, general description, you know, some scarcity stuff, and then saying, no, I tested, because probably you would have made sales in a better store, in a better environment. And this is it, guys. I hope that this is a takeaway that is helpful for you. If you enjoyed this, if this makes sense to you, please like this video. Let me know what you think your biggest mistake so far in e-commerce was, or whether you're still doing big mistakes, or what your current big mistake is. It would be super interesting to know, so just post it in the comments and I will check on them and I will reply. Probably I can also help you. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to this channel as well for more e-commerce and marketing information and help. And thanks a lot for watching. I will hopefully see you in the next video, guys. Bye bye.